Hi, and welcome to today's show. I'm so glad you're joining me because we have an outstanding show in store for you. Now, as you may know, this show is dedicated to motivating, informing, entertaining, and inspiring you to live your best life. Now, often on the show, we talk to different people about their own journeys along the path to live the life of their dreams. And sometimes it's just you and I having a conversation where I'll share some really powerful information that can help you to change and transform your life. And often I'll interview experts in the areas of health, beauty, fitness, personal growth and development, or spirituality, and sometimes I'll tell you about, and sometimes even showcase, some great local entertainment that's worth knowing about and going to see. But the point of the show is always this: to remind you that you can live the life of your dreams and to help you enjoy your journey. Now, I know that some of you watching right now may be going through a difficult and challenging time, and the whole idea of living a life of your dreams may in and of itself seem like a distant and far-off dream. But trust me when I tell you that if you clearly identify what it is you want and courageously take action every day towards that goal and use the setbacks and challenges that face you as stepping stones and motivators and keep yourself healthy, motivated, and inspired, you will find yourself living the life of your dreams. You can do it, and you deserve it. Now, my name is Mara Brown, and I'm your host for the show. I'm a best-selling author, transformational life coach, corporate consultant, and motivational speaker. I have 2 books out. One is called Soaring to Success, and the other one is called The Interior Castle, Finding Spirituality in Your Everyday Life. So welcome to the show. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you find it stimulating, uplifting, and inspiring. And as always, it's my own personal, deepest hope that by the end of today's show, you personally will have learned something or been touched by something that can help you in your life with what you're facing right now to make your greatest wishes and highest aspirations come true. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, today we have such an awesome show because our guest today is one of the first and one of the most fabulous and one of the greatest rap and hip-hop stars ever. With his group, they transformed contemporary music. They were the first rap group to be on the cover of Rolling Stone, the first rap group to go multi-platinum. They helped break the color barrier at MTV, and they also were the first rap group to play on Saturday Night Live. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to the legendary, the one and only Darryl DMC McDaniels from the trailblazing group Run DMC. Darryl, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, there's so much to talk about with you, so much. But let's just sort of start at the beginning. Tell me a bit about your childhood, where you grew up. What was your background, your childhood like?
I grew up in Hollis, Queens, New York, which was like a suburban area of Queens. It wasn't the Bronx, it wasn't Brooklyn, it wasn't Manhattan. There was a neighborhood where you had middle-class working families. You know, we had a backyard. We had lawns. The fathers would mow the lawn and stuff like that. Had a basketball hoop in my backyard. And basically, it was an area where you had your poverty and you had your middle-class people, but we was all one, and we was just trying to make ends meet and make an honest living and try to raise your kids in a good area. It was like this. The block was a beautiful place, but as soon as you walked to the corner, there was everything, that a young man would be up against.
Right, right. And yet where you were was sort of almost idealistic, it sounds like, sort of the Leave It to Beaver. Yet on the next corner was the other type of show.
Exactly. Like on the block, all the neighbors knew each other. The kids, it was a good community. The kids would all play together and stuff like that. Wow. But it was always, watch out for that corner. Stay off that corner. Don't go near that corner. Because like in any neighborhood, those elements is there.
There's always a bad corner. That's true, no matter where you're at. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show in your introduction, your group was trailblazing. You've done so many different things, and you've really broken barriers and achieved such incredible success. So how did you and a couple childhood friends become Run DMC?
Well, we grew up in Hollis, Queens, New York. There was a neighborhood where we'd go to the park and we'd play basketball, we'd ride our bikes, we'd do everything that kids would do.
Right.
Around the time of, I guess it was like 1978, is when a lot of disco was actually really big. And a lot of the DJs would bring the turntables and the records out to the parks. Right. And they would set up in the parks and they would play. So that became the thing. Most of the young kids from like maybe 9 years old or 12 years old, oh man, we want to be the DJs that's going to play the records and stuff. And we would do it in our basements because we didn't have the capability or the equipment that the neighborhood DJs had. But the hope there was to one day to be like these guys. But we would do it in our basements with our makeshift sets and stuff like that. And we did it for years, 12, 13, 14, 15. If there was a birthday party, we would set up the turntables and we would DJ and we would rap. So eventually, once those DJs we looked up to started putting it on records, we had the dream of one day we're going to make a record. I basically met Run, who's Joseph Simmons. I met him in 2nd grade at elementary school. We was in Catholic school too, St. Pascal Baylon Elementary School. I met Che in about 8th grade because he went to 192, which was a public school in the neighborhood. And you know, we grew up in the neighborhood, and right around 1982 is when hip-hop was really big in our neighborhood before the world knew about it. But we got a chance to make our first record once we got out of high school because Run's brother, who is Russell Simmons, Fat Farm, Def Comedy Jam, Def Jam Records, Run was always, yo, Russell, I'm telling you, me, Run, and Jay, we're good, we're good, we're good, we're good. And Russell was like, but you're just good in the basement. But after a lot of, you know, Russell, please let me make a record, because there was rappers before us, Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bambaataa, Curtis Blow, rappers like that. So Russell told Run, okay, you do me a favor. You get your high school diploma. I'll take you to the studio so you can make a record.
Good for him.
Because he was like, if you don't make it in the music business, you need an education to have something to fall back on. So once we got out of high school, Run went to Russell and was like, look, Russell, I got my diploma. So Russell had to let us go in the studio and Run, because we would rap in the park and rap in the basement, rap at the birthday parties. He was like, I'm putting I wasn't even DMC then, I was Easy D. Because it was easy for me to rap. So he called me up and he was like, yo, Darryl, Russell's finally going to let me make this record. I want you to be in my group. And it was like, okay. We went to the studio, we made a record, and then we needed a DJ. So we was like, hey, let's just make Jason a DJ, because out of all the DJs in the neighborhood, he's the best DJ. So we actually made the record, gave it to Russell, but life went on, because we had just graduated from high school. We all got our diplomas, and we had to make a decision what we're going to do now. So I went to St. John's University. Jason went to Queens College, and Ron went to LaGuardia Community College. So we was actually in college in about the 2nd semester. We didn't notice though, but Russell went and finally got a record company to say, okay, I'll put the record out.
And he was doing that unbeknownst to you guys.
Right, unbeknownst to us, because we made the record, and he was like, I'm gonna go shop the deal, but we didn't know, we wasn't even thinking on that level yet. It was like, make the record, maybe he'll get it on the radio, maybe he won't, whatever's whatever. But I was actually in 2nd semester at St. John's, and I was sitting in the lunchroom. I'll never forget the day. I was sitting in the lunchroom doing homework that I didn't want to do, because when I went to St. John's, I went for business management. And that was only because my best friend wasn't Run. I had another friend, his name was Douglas Hayes, and when we was in 12th grade, I asked Douglas, what school should I pick? And he said, hold up, pick St. John's because it's close to our neighborhood. Because we didn't want to go away to school, we wanted to stay home and come home every day. And I was like, so what major should I pick? Oh, pick business management. So that's what made me go to college. It wasn't even a thought of myself, but I made it in because the grades was good. But in 2nd semester, after making this record, you know, months ago, not even thinking about being in the music business, I was sitting in a lunchroom. I didn't know that Russell had got the record signed and gave it to the radio DJs. And the record came on the radio.
Oh my goodness, that must have been a shock.
Inside the lunchroom at St. John's. And the whole lunchroom jumped up and was like, yo, this record is the joint. Yo, this record is incredible. Who are these guys running DMC? Because we didn't have an album yet, because it was only singles. And this is what I did. I was sitting there and I looked, and I said to myself, that ain't going to last. And I went back to doing my work. But the record got really hot. It was a hit record across the nation. And then Russell and Joe calls one day, yo, the record is a hit. This Profile Records, this little unheard of label, is pushing the record. We got to go do a couple of shows. We got to go on the road. Hung up the phone, and then I realized something. When I went to make the record with Run, when he called me that day, because Russell let him go to the studio, and he said the only reason he brought me along, because he knew I could rap, but he didn't want to make a record alone. But the day I went to the studio to record the record, I didn't even tell my parents where I was going.
Oh, really?
This was 2:30 on a Sunday afternoon, and I remember I came home like 1 in the morning, and I got in trouble for it. And I didn't even tell my mother and father I was at the studio making a record, because I was just with Joe. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Who knew what would come from that? And what I love about the music too is that it's there's no gangster in the music. It's almost optimistic. It's almost like lyrical innocence mixed with urban grit. It's kind of uplifting. It's not.
We wanted to make music that was going to relate to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, because we was in the middle class area, so it wasn't like we was overly rich, and it wasn't like we was poor.
Right.
But we knew how to operate with what we had.
Right.
We had to do the best with what we had, but we looked at the world that was around us. We thought the music we was doing didn't have to be about just being from the ghetto or black and white.
Right.
We wanted to make a universal music that was going to inspire, motivate, and encourage everybody, even the grown-ups that would listen to it.
Yeah, and then therefore it did have the power it had to break the barriers,
exactly.
which is amazing.
Because like you said, you said it earlier, it was like Leave It to Beaver for us in that existence. So we wanted to show people that life is good.
Yes.
What you have to do, you have to put your work in to be successful and stuff like that.
Right.
And we didn't want to be depressing. So we made records about, yes, you have poverty and a broken class over here, but at the same time, I'm DMC and a place to be. I go to St. John's University, and since kindergarten, I acquired the knowledge. After 12th grade, I went straight to college. We always talked about the good things we did.
Now, tell me about, I mean, you had quite a meteoric rise, like just huge, and there was a point you found yourself. You're married to the woman of your dreams. You had a beautiful son. You were selling out stadiums all across the country, Run DMC. You were partnering with groups such as Aerosmith with Walk This Way, which is, I absolutely love that song.
Thank you so much.
And so tell me about what that rise to the top was like for you.
Well, it happened so quick, for sure, because like I said, I took a leave of absence from college because the first single became a hit. I've been absent ever since. It was like one single, second single, first album, first to go gold, first to go platinum, first to Rolling Stone, first on MTV, first on American Bandstand, everything like that. Then second album, huge, videos, MTV, third album with the Walk This Way record, because we was already in people's living room. But when we did the Walk This Way record, we went worldwide. We went universal. The tours, the endorsements. We was the first non-athletic entity to get a sneaker endorsement with the thing that we did with Adidas. So everything was falling into place and happening crazy. There's a lot of people that say, even Russell and the record label didn't know what was going on, but something big was happening, and everything we seemed to touch turned to gold.
Wow. And then things sort of took a bit of a turn for you, because Jason got murdered.
Yeah.
You were very,
Several years ago, I would say about 7 years ago to this day, I reached a point in my life where I was like, wow, my life has been so incredible.
You were living the life of your dreams.
Right.
You had the fame, you had the fortune, you had the success, and you had the amazing family.